We have a total of at least 18 that exist and operate with our facility.
For decades, Area 51 has been the epicenter of conspiracy theories, whispered secrets, and government denials.
That was developed in total secrecy, it was flown in secrecy.
The mysterious military base in Nevada has sparked endless speculation about extraterrestrial life and hidden technology.
The CIA declassifies documents which acknowledge the existence of a top-secret military research facility known as Area 51.
But what happens when new evidence surfaces? Bob Lazar, the man who first brought Area 51 to public attention, recently revealed declassified photos during his appearance on Joe Rogan's podcast that could alter everything we think we know about this secretive facility. These photos, once hidden from the public, may offer the missing pieces of the puzzle. Are they proof of extraterrestrial technology, or is there a more grounded explanation? Let's dive in. The secrecy and significance of Area 51. Nestled deep in the Nevada desert, Area 51 is more than just a military base. It's become a symbol of secrecy and mystery, shrouded in government denial and public fascination. Officially, it was nothing more than a testing ground for advanced aircraft, an explanation that barely scratched the surface of the intrigue surrounding it. For years, the U.S. government denied its very existence, leaving the public to wonder, if it was just a base, why all the secrecy? The mystery surrounding Area 51 began in earnest during the Cold War, when tensions between the U.S. and the Soviet Union spurred technological advancements that were classified at the highest levels. The U-2 spy plane, developed in the 1950s, was one of the first projects to emerge from the base, its sleek design and high-altitude capabilities so far ahead of their time that many speculated about its true purpose. However, UFO sightings reported by both locals and military personnel around the base sparked far more than mere curiosity. They ignited the theory that Area 51 wasn't just home to advanced human technology, but potentially extraterrestrial discoveries as well. Throughout the years, the base became synonymous with UFOs, alien life, and government cover-ups. In fact, it wasn't until 2013 that the U.S. government officially acknowledged its existence. Yet by then, Area 51 had already become the stuff of legend. The base became a magnet for UFO conspiracy theorists, some claiming the government was secretly hiding alien technology. In contrast, others suggested it was the site of reverse engineering efforts to unlock the mysteries of extraterrestrial spacecraft. Why did Area 51 remain so tightly sealed off? Why were even the most basic details about its operations locked behind layers of secrecy? To many, it was clear something was being hidden, and the more the government denied it, the more the public believed the opposite, that there was something much bigger at play. The rise of UFO conspiracy theories. The mystery surrounding Area 51 didn't stay confined to classified documents or shadowy government reports. It quickly became a cultural phenomenon. The rumors and conspiracies surrounding the base took off in the 1950s, when locals in the surrounding Nevada towns began reporting strange lights and unidentified flying objects in the skies above the base. Military personnel who were stationed nearby also shared unsettling stories of mysterious craft soaring overhead, craft that seemed to defy the laws of physics. The official line from the government? These were experimental aircraft, nothing more, nothing less. But the sightings continued, and as the years passed, the public's curiosity only grew. The secretive nature of Area 51, combined with the UFO sightings, led to wild speculations. Were the government's experimental aircraft truly just prototypes of new human-made technologies? Or was there something else happening at Area 51 that the government was too afraid to acknowledge? Many believe that what the government was really testing at Area 51 wasn't just advanced weaponry, but alien technology. The more the government denied involvement with UFOs, the more the public grew suspicious. The very secrecy surrounding Area 51, where no one was allowed in or out without extreme measures, seemed to fuel the fire. The whispers of UFO sightings and the supposed reverse engineering of extraterrestrial technology began to grow louder. Before long, Area 51 was linked to something much bigger, the idea that the government was concealing the existence of extraterrestrial life. This was the beginning of modern UFO lore.
reverse engineer technology that was apparently from the 1953 Kingman UFO crash.
A narrative that painted Area 51 not as just a military base, but as the site of extraterrestrial cover-ups. But what drove these theories to mainstream attention? It wasn't just a few rumors or theories. It was the testimonies of insiders, whistleblowers, and even high-ranking officials who began to hint that Area 51 might not be what the public thought it was. The rumors of UFOs and alien spacecraft were no longer confined to tabloid newspapers. They were being discussed in public, in hushed voices in government halls, and in the hearts of conspiracy theorists worldwide. Bob Lazar's claims, if there's one person who cemented Area 51's place in UFO folklore, it's Bob Lazar. In 1989, Lazar, an alleged physicist, made a bold claim that would change the UFO narrative forever. He revealed that he had worked at a top-secret facility near Area 51, known as S4.
ET craft, ET technology, anything like that at Area 51. This is why S4 was made specifically to separate it there.
Where he was tasked with reverse engineering extraterrestrial technology. According to Lazar, the US government wasn't just studying UFOs, they were actively working on reverse engineering alien spacecraft. Lazar's story wasn't just a casual claim, it was detailed, technical, and unlike anything anyone had heard before. One of Lazar's most sensational claims was that the government had possession of several alien spacecraft. He described flying discs, or saucers, that were being studied at S4, each allegedly capable of manipulating gravity through an advanced propulsion system. This system, he claimed, was powered by a mysterious substance he called Element 115. According to Lazar, Element 115 was the key to the spacecraft's ability to defy gravity, enabling them to hover and travel at incredible speeds. At the time Lazar made his claims, Element 115 was not known to exist, and mainstream scientists dismissed his story as pure fantasy. What made Lazar's story even more compelling were the technical details he provided. He described the propulsion systems of the alien crafts in a way that no ordinary person could have. According to Lazar, these spacecraft lacked conventional wiring, visible propulsion systems, and rivets, making them unlike any known human-made aircraft. He even described hand scanners used for employee access at S4, which seemed absurd at the time, but later turned out to be technology used by military contractors. Lazar's credibility, however, came under scrutiny almost immediately. Despite claiming to have attended both MIT and Caltech, there were no records to verify his education, and his employment history at Los Alamos National Laboratory was similarly wiped clean. This led many to discredit him, accusing him of fabricating his entire story. Yet for others, the absence of records was seen as proof of a government cover-up designed to suppress Lazar's revelations. Whether you believe Lazar's claims or not, there's no denying that his story helped ignite a firestorm of public interest in UFOs in Area 51. Lazar's willingness to risk everything to expose what he believed was happening behind closed doors made him a hero in the eyes of many UFO enthusiasts. His claims didn't just add fuel to the conspiracy theories, they gave them a face, a voice, and a scientific framework that no one had dared to challenge until then. The Joe Rogan interview. Bob Lazar's claims had already made a significant impact, but it wasn't until his appearance on Joe Rogan's podcast in 2019 that his story truly reached a wider, mainstream audience. Lazar's interview on the Joe Rogan Experience wasn't like a typical interview with a UFO enthusiast. There was no frantic attempt to convince anyone. Instead, Lazar came across as a man who had long since grown weary of the skepticism, the ridicule, and the constant scrutiny. His tone was calm, measured, and at times almost resigned. Lazar wasn't trying to convince anyone of anything. He was simply telling his story, one that had been buried under years of silence. One of the key moments of the interview came when Lazar described the gravity-based propulsion system he worked with, which allegedly defied conventional physics. He spoke about how the craft he worked on manipulated gravity itself, bending space-time and creating a gravitational field that enabled its incredible maneuverability. It wasn't just about flying. These craft could warp space-time, moving in ways no conventional aircraft could ever dream of. What made the conversation even more compelling was how Joe Rogan, who is known for challenging his guests and questioning everything, seemed genuinely fascinated by what Lazar was saying. While Rogan is often skeptical of conspiracy theories, he didn't seem to dismiss Lazar outright. Instead, he asked questions that encouraged Lazar to delve deeper into the scientific aspects of the propulsion system. The more Lazar explained, the more Rogan became intrigued, rather than alarmed. This wasn't the typical exchange with a UFO fanatic trying to sell wild ideas. Instead, it felt like a technical discussion about something that was, but it wasn't just Lazar's claims that made the interview fascinating. It was the context in which they were made. At the time, the Pentagon had already acknowledged the existence of UFOs, or what they now called UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomena.
The Pentagon says its new office, created last July to investigate unidentified flying objects, has been busy.
Documents and videos had been declassified, showing strange aerial objects that defied human understanding. The timing of Lazar's interview couldn't have been more significant. The government was no longer denying UFOs. They were confirming them. Rogan pointed this out during the conversation, raising the possibility that Lazar might have been telling the truth all along, despite his story having been dismissed as a hoax for decades. During the interview, Lazar also hinted at the newly declassified photos that he believed could prove his claims. While he didn't reveal the photos himself, Lazar acknowledged their importance. He suggested that these photos could provide crucial evidence that would help validate everything he had said. Lazar remained cautious about revealing too much, stating that he had already said all he could, but his cryptic remarks only added to the mystery. His position wasn't about seeking fame or fortune. Instead, it was about quietly waiting for the truth to come to light. Declassified documents and photos. The declassification of documents and photos related to Area 51 has played a pivotal role in shaping the public's understanding of the base and its operations. Over the years, numerous Freedom of Information Act (FOIA) requests have led to the release of various government documents that shed light on the activities conducted at the secretive facility. While these documents and photos don't offer direct proof of extraterrestrial technology, they do provide a clearer picture of Area 51's history and its role in military advancements. One of the most significant declassified releases includes aerial photos of Area 51 taken from high-altitude reconnaissance flights. These images reveal the expansive layout of the base, including runways, hangars, and other facilities that were previously hidden from public view. While these images confirm the existence of the base and provide insight into its structure, they don't reveal any definitive evidence of alien technology. Instead, they highlight the base's role in advanced aviation testing during the Cold War. In addition to these photos, declassified documents reveal details about the development of cutting-edge military aircraft tested at Area 51. Notably, documents about the U-2 spy plane and A-12 reconnaissance aircraft show how these groundbreaking aircraft were designed and tested in extreme secrecy. These aircraft, which were critical to U.S. intelligence efforts during the Cold War, were often mistaken for UFOs due to their unconventional designs and flight characteristics. The declassification of these documents helped explain many of the UFO sightings in the area, showing that they were likely just test flights of these experimental aircraft. However, what made the declassified photos particularly interesting was the presence of unidentified objects that did not appear to match any known military aircraft. Some of these objects lacked visible wings, exhaust trails, or propulsion systems, features typically present in even the most advanced aircraft. This discrepancy aligns eerily well with Lazar's descriptions of the gravity-based propulsion systems used in the spacecraft he claimed to have worked on. Skeptics argue that these objects could still be classified as military prototypes, and the lack of hard evidence in the photos prevents them from definitively proving Lazar's claims. However, the release of these documents and photos continues to fuel speculation about what, if anything, is being hidden at Area 51. The skeptic's view. Despite the compelling nature of Bob Lazar's claims and the intriguing declassified documents, a sizable group of skeptics argue that none of this provides conclusive evidence of extraterrestrial technology. The photos and documents released by the government have not confirmed Lazar's more sensational claims, and many believe that the strange objects in the images can be explained by advanced military technology rather than alien craft.
UAPs are a real thing. The unidentified aerial phenomenon basically covers anything that's in the sky.
One of the most prominent arguments made by skeptics is that the UFO sightings around Area 51 can largely be attributed to classified military aircraft, such as the U-2 spy plane or the A-12 reconnaissance aircraft, which were tested in the skies above the base during the Cold War. These aircraft were groundbreaking in their designs and capabilities, often flying at altitudes and speeds that were unheard of at the time. Because they were secretive and experimental planes, their sightings would naturally lead people to assume they were UFOs. During the Cold War, the United States was engaged in a technological arms race with the Soviet Union, and secrecy surrounding military projects was paramount. The U-2 was one of the first aircraft to fly at extreme altitudes, making it difficult for civilians to identify it properly. Later, the A-12, a forerunner to the SR-71 Blackbird, was similarly designed for high-speed, high-altitude reconnaissance. Both of these aircraft could have easily been mistaken for UFOs, especially by untrained eyes. The sightings of UFOs around Area 51 in the 1950s and 1960s could thus be explained by the test flights of these cutting-edge military aircraft, rather than the presence of extraterrestrial craft. Skeptics also argue that many of the strange features seen in the declassified photos, such as unusual shapes or the lack of visible propulsion, do not necessarily point to extraterrestrial origins. The reality could be that these features are simply the result of classified military aircraft that were still in the early stages of development. Military engineers are known to work on unconventional designs, and prototypes of experimental aircraft could look alien to someone unfamiliar with their design. Another major point of contention is Lazar's credibility. While Lazar's story was groundbreaking, several inconsistencies in his background have led some to dismiss him as a fabricator. Lazar claimed to have worked at Los Alamos National Laboratory and attended both MIT and Caltech. Still, investigations into his education and employment history have found no records of him at either institution. For skeptics, this lack of verifiable proof undermines Lazar's claims. If Lazar had truly worked on reverse engineering alien technology, why would the government go to such lengths to erase his academic and professional records? Furthermore, even Lazar himself has admitted that much of his story relies on the technology he was shown, rather than hard evidence of extraterrestrial life. This leaves room for doubt, as he didn't directly interact with alien beings or objects. His claims, while detailed and fascinating, lack the kind of tangible proof that would be needed to convince the broader scientific community. While the strange objects and redacted documents in the declassified photos are intriguing, skeptics argue that they do not prove anything definitive. They view the photos as just another part of the government's ongoing secrecy surrounding highly classified military operations. The idea of alien technology being hidden at Area 51 is appealing to some. Still, for others, it remains nothing more than an intriguing mystery wrapped in layers of secrecy, speculation, and misinterpretation. The mystery of Element 115.
Element 115 is a super heavy element, but it's a unique element. When it's exposed to radiation, it produces its own gravitational field.
One of the most captivating aspects of Bob Lazar's story is his claim about Element 115, the exotic substance that he insists is key to the gravity-based propulsion systems used in the extraterrestrial spacecraft he allegedly worked on. When Lazar first made his claims in the late 1980s, Element 115 didn't even exist in the periodic table of elements. Mainstream science dismissed Lazar's assertion as pure fiction. However, in a strange twist of fate, Lazar's story would eventually gain a significant amount of credibility with the discovery of moscovium, an isotope of element 115, by Russian scientists in 2003. Lazar described element 115 as a substance that could not only store vast amounts of energy, but also create intense gravitational fields when properly configured. According to Lazar, these gravitational fields allowed the spacecraft to manipulate gravity and bend space-time, which would explain their apparent ability to hover and travel at unimaginable speeds. Lazar's claim was groundbreaking, and many people dismissed it as part of his conspiracy-laden narrative. Yet the discovery of moscovium, which had 115 protons in its nucleus, gave a strange kind of validation to Lazar's words. However, the story didn't end there. While moscovium is indeed element 115, it is highly unstable. With a half-life of only milliseconds before decaying, it is unlikely to have any practical applications, let alone being used for anti-gravity propulsion. This raises a critical question. If Lazar was telling the truth about the role of element 115 in the spacecraft's propulsion systems, then how could it function as a stable energy source for such advanced technology? Lazar himself has stated that the form of element 115 used in the spacecraft was a stable isotope, which remains an enigma. Mainstream science has yet to synthesize a stable version of element 115. Still, the possibility remains that such a substance might exist elsewhere in the universe, possibly in a more stable form. The discovery of moscovium, while not directly confirming Lazar's claims, certainly gave them more weight. Lazar, a self-described physicist with an extensive background in science, has been remarkably consistent in his descriptions of element 115 and its uses. He claimed that the US government had been trying to replicate this technology for decades, working under the assumption that if they could stabilize element 115, they could develop gravity-based propulsion systems capable of anti-gravity travel. Lazar even hinted that scientists at S4 were actively experimenting with this material, trying to create a stable isotope that could power the UFOs he worked on. Despite this, skepticism remains. Critics argue that the scientific community has yet to find any tangible evidence of stable element 115, and the failure to create a usable version leaves Lazar's claims unsubstantiated. Yet the possibility that element 115 may be more than just a fantastical concept isn't entirely off the table. If Lazar's assertions are accurate, and a stable version of element 115 does exist, it would open the door to a new era of propulsion technologies and possibly even interstellar travel, concepts that, at this moment, seem almost too far-fetched to imagine. Other whistleblowers and supporting testimonies. Bob Lazar is not alone in his claims about government secrecy surrounding extraterrestrial technology. In recent years, several high-profile whistleblowers and former government officials have come forward with testimonies that add new layers of complexity to the story Lazar started. One of the most significant revelations came from David Grush, a former intelligence officer who worked with the Pentagon's UAP task force. In 2023, Grush testified that the U.S. government had non-human biological remains and alien spacecraft in its possession. His testimony was groundbreaking, as it aligned closely with Lazar's accounts of reverse engineering extraterrestrial. Grush's credibility was bolstered by his access to highly classified information, which he claimed proved the existence of extraterrestrial craft and that these programs were hidden from even top-level government officials. His testimony echoed Lazar's assertions, adding weight to the idea that U.S. military and intelligence agencies were involved in covert operations related to UFOs. Another influential figure in the UFO disclosure movement is Dr. Stephen Greer. In 2023, Dr. Greer hosted a press conference featuring multiple former military personnel, some of whom confirmed Lazar's claims about alien technology being studied and reverse engineered in highly classified facilities. These testimonies from figures like Grush and Greer lend credibility to Lazar's original claims. While some remain skeptical, the increasing number of high-ranking officials coming forward with similar stories suggests there may be more truth to Lazar's narrative than many have been willing to accept. The sheer number of whistleblowers adds depth to the mystery of Area 51 and the extraterrestrial phenomenon. The cultural impact of Bob Lazar. Bob Lazar's story is far more than just an anecdote about UFOs and secret government operations. It has had a lasting cultural impact that has shaped the way the public views both Area 51 and the wider UFO phenomenon. Lazar didn't just throw a match onto the fire of speculation. He sparked an entire movement that reached far beyond the UFO community, pushing the conversation into the mainstream. Before Lazar came forward in 1989, Area 51 was little more than a dot on a map, a secretive base in Nevada that most people outside of the military had never heard of. After his revelations, however, Area 51 became synonymous with conspiracy theories about alien life and extraterrestrial technology. Lazar's claims gave the UFO movement a face, a voice, and a detailed narrative that fueled public interest. The idea that the government was actively hiding the truth about UFOs from the public took on a new urgency and intrigue. propelling Area 51 into pop culture as the ultimate symbol of government secrecy. Lazar's influence didn't stop with UFO enthusiasts or conspiracy theorists. His story permeated mainstream media, inspiring films, documentaries, and countless books that expanded on the themes he introduced. His appearance in the documentary Bob Lazar, Area 51 and Flying Saucers by Jeremy Corbell further cemented his place in modern UFO lore. The documentary, along with Lazar's continued involvement in the UFO community, ensured that his claims remained relevant in the public consciousness, even decades after he first made them. Moreover, Lazar's appearance on Joe Rogan's podcast in 2019 helped to solidify his place in the broader pop culture landscape. The episode not only reintroduced Lazar's story to a new generation of viewers, but also legitimized his narrative in the eyes of many who had previously dismissed him as just another conspiracy theorist. Lazar's cool, composed demeanor and detailed explanations added a layer of scientific credibility to his claims, making them harder to dismiss as fantasy. Through his story, Bob Lazar has done more than just speculate about UFOs. He has reshaped how we think about the possibility of extraterrestrial life and government secrecy, and in doing so, he has become a significant cultural figure in the ongoing debate about UFOs and the unknown. Bob Lazar's story remains one of the most enduring and controversial narratives in the history of UFOs and government secrecy. Whether you believe his claims or not, it's undeniable that his revelations about Area 51, extraterrestrial technology, and Element 115 have shaped public perception and brought the UFO conversation into the mainstream. While declassified photos and new testimonies continue to add layers of intrigue, the question remains, what is the truth behind Area 51? Lazar's story is just one piece of a much larger puzzle, but as more evidence surfaces, it seems the mystery is far from being solved.